afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on a Monday edition of On Cue. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Hope everyone had a wonderful sports weekend and you are enjoying your December 1st, 2025. 2 hours to play with. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. On the East Coast, we are powered by our wonderful friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, 3 Brooks Bourbon, Get Ready with Tea, and of course, Play It Again Sports. Very easy to get connected with us as well at Rich Q on social media, on X, also on IG, Instagram, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel as you guys have been doing religiously, and couldn't ask for a better crop of listeners and viewers on this Monday edition, which we like to dub, by the way, post Thanksgiving edition, which we love to dub, if you are just tuning in for the first time, a Lunes Manolo Mentiroso Locutor de Radio Man Up Monday. That's how we do it on Cue. Basically, we're calling out the BS takes, picks, and opinions over the weekend. And let me just say, as we crept into Thanksgiving and we came on the air after the fact, Black Friday, oh, by the way, where the Philadelphia Eagles got mauled by the Chicago Bears. Actually, that was a Saturday edition, I mind you. Saturday edition. We mentioned some of these games this past weekend in the NFL. And a lot of it had to do with, we're going to see legit threats. We're going to see frauds. We're going to see teams, ready to take that next jump. And I will just say this. What I saw all over this weekend, and I know for a fact, those that did not chime in Saturday, that were basically sitting on the sofa, decompressing, digesting, dealing with the tryptophan, whatever the hell it is that you have at Thanksgiving because of the turkey, I'm telling you right now, Eagles fans were nowhere to be found. I'm going to get to them in a couple moments. But this is what I took away from the weekend in the NFL. Parity, parity, parity. You know it, and I know it. That's all it is. Parity, parity, parity. And I'm looking at a couple teams right now. Now, Denver Broncos, who, if you listen to the show back in August, I predicted we're going to win the Super Bowl. I predicted we're going to win the AFC West. So that's number one. That is number one. The Denver Broncos, all they got to do is figure out their offense. And their defense is absolutely just, they're legit. They're stacked. They are absolutely stacked. And then you saw the Chicago Bears, who dominated the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolutely dominated the Philadelphia Eagles. So those are two teams, the Bears and the Broncos, I'm going to get into. Obviously, we'll get into the locals. Washington losing last night. The Eagles losing. Jets pulling off a nice win late against a bad Falcons team. And the Giants, we'll see the Patriots tonight on Monday Night Football. Jackson Dart back under center. The other thing that stood out is, man, some of these teams are flawed. And I got killed for saying this back in August. I thought maybe Arizona would be a little better. Maybe Carolina will make a nice little run, be a fringe contender. And what does Carolina do? They beat the Rams. What happened to the Colts? Stubbing their toe a little bit. The Rams showing that they're flawed. Buffalo still looks like a flawed team. But Buffalo, I think when it's all said and done, just because it's Josh Allen and Josh Allen making Josh Allen plays, might be there. Pittsburgh is shot. They're done. They're a fraud. We'll get into them a little bit. Tomlin already on the hot seat. Aaron Rodgers looks like he wants no parts of the Pittsburgh Steelers going forward. So parity is the name of the game. And I'll tell you, this is why you love the NFL. And I know some people don't like it. They don't like the fact that there's parity in the NFL. I think this is great. I do, because every single season, look, after a while, you get tired of seeing the New Englands, the Indianapolis, the Kansas Cities, back in the day, the Denvers back in the day, the Steelers, San Francisco, the 49ers back in the day. It's just, you want some parity. You want to look at some of these teams, even though they're flawed, they still have a shot. And I think what I saw Friday from the Bears against the Philadelphia Eagles showed me, and I said they were a sneaky team and they were a live dog in that game. Now, I didn't pick them outright. I said they were going to cover. But we talked a little bit about their line, Caleb Williams, running the football. They now have the confidence we can go into Philadelphia and beat the Philadelphia Eagles. The Denver Broncos and their defense, once again, we don't need to score 28, but if we got 24, that might be good enough. We can make a deep run into the playoffs. So parity is the name of the game. And this Monday edition, as we like to call it, a Lunes Manolo Mentiroso Locutor de Radio Man Up Monday. I'm wondering, will I hear from Eagles faithful today? I just don't believe I will. I really don't. I believe they will, they'll throw it, they'll scapegoat, all this other nonsense. The man starts us off on this Monday, December 1st with the eyeballs. He's looking around. He knows what's coming up. I wonder if an Eagles fan has ever man up on Manolo Monday. No! And here's the problem with that, man. Even though the ghost of Luca Brasi is chiming in, I'm here every Monday as a scapegoat of the Bunker Boys. That is it's just ludicrous. I mean, the fact that the Eagles got some major issues right now. The Eagles have major issues. They are a flawed team. And look, I get it. The Rams stubbed their toe against the Panthers. It happens. We were praising Matthew Stafford doesn't turn the football over. What happens? You get a tip, interception, pick six. The Rams stubbed their toe. The Rams are going to be okay. They are. Seattle, I'm not worried about Seattle. I'm still on the slinging Sammy Darnold bandwagon. I'm telling you right now, 26-0. The Vikings have major issues. They don't have a quarterback. Philadelphia Eagles are leaking some oil. They're leaking some oil. And even the astute, even the ardent, even the intelligent Eagles fan has to realize the ship's not sinking just yet. But man, there's a couple leaks. And here's the thing. You've got a head coach. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with Nick Sirianni. I feel as though there's a mixed bag when it comes to Nick Sirianni. There's a mixed bag of opinions when it comes to Jalen Hurts. And listen, I'm telling you right now, we can get on the players. We can get on the coordinators for what they're doing and not what they're doing. But ultimately, it's whose job to get the team ready to play. It's whose job to make adjustments. It's whose job to coach these guys up. It falls on the head coach. And in a game, if you didn't tune in on Saturday, in a game at home against a Bears team on paper, you think you should beat them by 10-13, even though the Bears win that game relatively close because of Sirianni's idiotic and clownish decision to go for friggin' two. Greg Olson's still talking about it. What the hell are you talking about? It's a horrible loss by the Philadelphia Eagles. They were not prepared to play. And anytime a head coach does not have his team prepared to play, he's going to be on the hot seat. Am I suggesting right now that you pull the plug on Nick Sirianni? No. But why? The fact that you keep backing this offensive coordinator, it worries me that this head coach is not capable of making the tough call. And now you're going to leave it up to Howie Roseman? You're going to leave it up top, Jeffrey Lurie? You're still backing this offensive coordinator. Why? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And Nick Sirianni has to understand something. He really has to understand something. The NFL is a what have you done for me now business. Just go ask McDermott in Buffalo. Just go ask Tomlin with Pittsburgh. Just go ask O'Connell with the Minnesota Vikings. It's a what have you done for me now business. Nobody cares about last year and the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. I got news for you. That dog's not going to hunt anymore. That's done. Trophy's never going away. You earned it. Okay, now you move on. It's a different season. You are no longer the hunters. You are the hunted. But the head coach, I mean, what does he do? Seriously, what does his head coach do? Besides make some head-scratching, bone-scratching, head-scratching decisions. We just created a word on a Monday. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm telling you right now, it's almost like borderline malpractice, man. It really is. Stop backing this guy. Make the tough decision. Hell, Mike Kafka, an interim head coach, decides we're moving on from Shane Bowen. And Nick Sirianni doesn't want to fire his buddy. You know how many guys had to can their friend? You know how many guys went out on a limb and they went to their boss or their manager or their supervisor, hey, hire my buddy. All right, you're responsible for him. It's on him. It's like, turn around in rounders. What did Mike do? He went to bat for Worm. It's on him. That debt's on him when they consolidated with Grammy and Teddy KGB, right? Matt Damon took the fall. He went to bat, but he realized I got to cut bait with Worm. That's it. I'm done. I got to get my 3 stacks of high society. So why in the world can't Nick Sirianni do that? It's like, what are you so enamored with a coordinator that stinks, that has no creativity at all? At all. Javon chimes in. How about my guy Bryce Young and the Panthers finally putting together a lot of patience with Bryce Young? A lot of patience with Bryce Young. It's starting to pay off, but it's all about building a different culture. It's exactly what's going on in Carolina. Ghost might be here, but I don't remember any man-ups. No, they don't. And that's the thing, man. You're not going to get it. See, here's the difference. I mean, I got to say it. We are fully transparent on the air. And yes, does it rub some people the wrong way? Absolutely. Do we care? No. Are we apologetic? No, because as Bronco Ball has stated a lot of times, what do we do on the show? We speak the truth. We speak the truth. That's what we do. And the truth right now is, once again, a bad L by the Bunker Boys. You blow a 21-point lead to the dreaded Dallas Cowboys and you show in the friggin' second half. Then you get mauled by the Chicago Bears. Oh, by the way, let me put it in perspective. Over the last friggin' 4 games, you know who has a better offense than the Philadelphia Eagles and who scored more points? The New York Jets. So you're not going to get a man up from any one of the Bunker Boys. You're not. Tom and Summers Point, you're not going to get it. Joe D in South Philly, you're not going to get it. The ghost of Luca Brasi, Bunker Boy de facto, you're not going to get it. And you get to the point where it's embarrassing because all we ask, we give a little grace. We give a little charity on the air once in a while. But you curry favor with the listening audience when you man up. That's why we call it a Man Up Monday. I'll start off. This is what I'll do. Again, I'll lead by example. I will lead by example. So let's go through the slate, right? I like the Lions at home. All right, offense did Green Bay scored 31. Told you Dallas was going to win that game at home. And I told you the Ravens were going to blow out Cincinnati. Bad job by me. I'm going to man up right there. Now, I'm not hearing too many people say, hey, Q, you said that the 49ers were going to win 10 plus games. There we go. I don't need to man up. The Colts are in trouble. I will man up. I didn't like the Texans in that spot. I thought Miami would dog walk the Saints. I'll man up again. I have no problem with that. We like the Rams. No problem with that. I'll man up in that regard. We took Seattle. We like that game. We took the Chargers. We like that game. Denver, I said Denver was going to win the Super Bowl. That's my prediction. I got to man up for a lot. I don't have a problem doing that. As host, as leader, I'll do it. But you guys need to follow suit. And I don't want to see Tom chiming in right now. I don't want to deal with his nonsense because he's calling me a Hurts hater again because he tuned in for 5 friggin' minutes the other day. He didn't listen to the whole scope of the show. He did. He really didn't. Tell you, man, I can lead you guys to the water, but I can't force you to drink it. Broncos country, let's ride. Oh, Michael, we're looking so good right now. Can you imagine if Bo friggin' Nix and the Denver Broncos win the Super Bowl and we called it on the air back in August? Bunker keeps receipts, man. The tape has been marked. It doesn't matter. You can keep all the receipts you want. I got to be honest. Keep all the receipts you want. The bottom line is you guys run your friggin' mouths after every Eagles win. And there have been a lot of them. But when the Eagles lose, it's like I said, it's like the sewer rat. See, there's a rat and then there's a sewer rat. The one rat you can kind of live with. You can kind of deal with. It's going to pop its head out once in a while. You throw a little cheese. It's a little dirty. It's a little infested, but you kind of move away from it, and eventually he scurries along. The sewer rat is a completely different rat. The B-boys, they are teetering on the sewer rat. You're walking the streets, you're going down Broad, you're going down Patterson, you're walking down Broadway, you're on South Street, you're in New York City, and what happens? You get the torrential downpour, the rain, the nastiness of it all. That's when the sewer rat comes out. They're just infected. It's just, you got the gook on your shoe. They're looking around, they're trying to find crumbs, cheese, little pizza crust that's been tossed behind the bakery, some leftover Deo donuts at the bakery, at the pizza joint, and they just scurry. They travel in packs, and that's you can't deal with that rat. You got to get rid of that. That rat has to get exterminated. And I'm telling the Eagles fans right now, the Eagles fans that love to get on me, which I have no problem with because I can give it right back. You are a flawed team. And you want to mark the friggin' tape right here. This is not a reverse mush. This is not a spite opinion. This is just me calling it the way I see it. If this team collapses like they did 2 seasons ago when they were 10-1, and then they lost 5 straight, one on the road, and got absolutely waxed by Tampa Bay. If they lose in the wild card, because right now the Bears have home field advantage, or they lose in a divisional round and the offense struggles, everyone is going to call for Nick Sirianni's head. Why? Because he was so reluctant to make a change with the offensive coordinator because they're buddies. I'm calling it right now. So you might think that everything is basically locked up. There is a lot of football left to be played this season. There is a lot of football. And this team right now is trending down. Okay? They are trending down. You want to sit there and say, relax, Q, stop hating Q, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. They're 8-4. They've dropped 2 straight. Their offense has done nothing. And if you go back to the game against the Broncos, where I said the offense is flawed, and you guys were hammering, saying, what are you talking about? Their offense is going to be fine. Look what they did against the Chiefs. Look what they did against the Rams. Blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you, they are falling apart at the seams. I'm telling you right now, there is a friction, there is a divide, there are issues going on. And you go back to the All-22, and you guys sit there and say I'm overly critical of the quarterback, which is an absolute joke because I'm the one that freaking came on the air in August and said, right now, stick him in the top 5 based on what he did last season winning the Super Bowl MVP. And I still got hammered for it. I'm still taking shrapnel on the back by some of you cowards regarding my comments on Hurts. But at this point, you watch his quarterback play, and he's reverting back to very bad habits. He's holding on to the ball too long. He's taking ill-advised sacks. He's rolling when he shouldn't be. He's making poor decisions, bad interceptions. And oh, by the way, he's not seeing the field. That one throw that was behind Smith on 3rd down, I think he had the tight end wide open for a touchdown. But it all goes back to coaching. It all goes back to coaching guys up too. And also taking over the reins as offensive coordinator. Hurts got to be better in year 6. I feels like the Daniel Jones conversation. If not now, when? I mean, listen, Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Like it would be absolutely foolish of me to sit here and tell you Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback. He's not. He's not a bad quarterback. At times, he's a really good quarterback. Most of the times, he gets the job done quarterback, and he has moments of greatness. But he's being paid to be a great quarterback. Saquon is being paid to be a great running back. And you gotta look at Hurts's stats, put him in a vacuum. Don't just look at, 18-1 or 18-2 touchdown to or interception ratio. He's missing throws that Super Bowl winning MVP quarterbacks should not miss. I'm sorry. They shouldn't miss these throws. He's not seeing the field. I don't know if he doesn't trust the offensive line. It's like Saquon Barkley. I mentioned this on Saturday. You are paying Saquon Barkley a lot of money, even though you were looking at the contract and saying, low risk, it can be boatloads of rewards. And what did he give you last year? Saquon Barkley gave the Philadelphia Eagles a historic season, a career year. They rode his legs. 14 games where he had over 100 yards rushing, 2 games over 200 yards, including the divisional round in the snow against the Rams, and then the runoff tackle to basically bring down the house to open up the NFC Championship game. So last year, you got your bang for your buck. But again, it's what have you done for me lately? He's not the same running back. He's not. He's not. He looks washed. He's running with zero confidence. He's not hitting the hole. It's one of the reasons I said on Saturday's show, you might as well give Bigsby more reps. He's a change of pace type of back. You have to figure it out. And listen, the Eagles aren't the only team, but since they're in our backyard and we talk about them a lot, along with the NFC East, and they're the defending Super Bowl champs, they've got major, major issues. And I think a lot of Eagles fans are delusional like the head coach. You know the analogy I made the other day? Sirianni is like the guy that knows that his credit is messed up and his bills are stacking up. So instead of attacking it head on, he just allows them to keep mounting, takes his cup of coffee, walks away, and decides it's going to figure itself out. That's not life in the NFL. It's not. It's a gutty road win for Bronco ball. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a cat nap before the overnight broadcast last night. I saw that Washington went for 2. I also saw that Collinsworth was butchering Mariota's last name pretty much throughout the whole broadcast. It is QB1. He misses too many open receivers and looks confused on a lot of the RPOs. Should have brought in McKee as a spark in the second half while it was a one-score game. Do you really understand what you're saying right now? Is this the portion of the show? Is this the portion of the season where now we're saying bench Jalen Hurts? Because if you did that, if you put McKee in the game and you pulled Jalen Hurts, that is in essence benching your franchise quarterback who you're paying a lot of money to, who got you to 2 Super Bowls, who, oh, by the way, is a Super Bowl MVP. That's where we're going? Because that's a new one. Everyone loves the backup. Everyone loves A.J. Brown. Eagles 6 chimes in. Q, did you see his reaction? A.J. Brown's done. He's done with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's done. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are very close to being done with A.J. Brown. And I don't care about the performance he had the other day. You just see the handwriting is on the wall. He's not the number one target for Hurts anymore. So he'll have a game where they force feed him the football. He'll get his 6 or 7 touches. He'll get his 8 or 9 reps for over 100 yards and a couple touchdowns. But he's not that guy anymore. It's Smith. It's Goddard. And I can't even say that it's Saquon. You're not benching Jalen Hurts, and no one's suggesting that. What I'm saying is these are throws that have to be made. If the Eagles have any notion, you can't blame it on the play calling of the head coach when your quarterback can't hit a wide open wide receiver. That's not on that's on the quarterback, man. That's on the quarterback. And listen, he is just as culpable as a lot of the players are right now for what's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. And as I alluded to, they're not the only team that's got flaws. There's not the only team that has a lot of warts. He should take play calling away from Patullo, but he would also have to admit a mistake by hiring. That's the problem. That's the problem. And again, it's exactly, now, Jovan, stick with me for a minute. It's exactly what Brian Daboll did. Brian Daboll hired Mike Kafka and then stripped him of his play calling duties last season. And look, by the way, who's out of the job? They fired Brian Daboll. I mean, it's maddening to think. It is. But this has vibes of what? 2023. It really does. It has 2023 vibes where all I heard was this team's unstoppable. They stubbed their toe against the Jets. They started the season 5-0. They had the big win in overtime against the Commanders. They raced out to this 10-1 record. Remember, too, they had that crazy win against Buffalo. And then what happened? The 49ers absolutely woodshed them. They dog walked them. That season, the 49ers showed all you got to be is physical with this team. And they broke their spirits. And from there, they lost to Dallas, Seattle. They didn't even show up against Dallas. They didn't show up. Then remember the whole Jalen Hurts doesn't want to fly with the team, and here we go, Drew Lock making the plays late against the Eagles for Seattle. They lose that game. They barely squeak by the Giants. They lose to Arizona. They lose to the Giants to close out the season in a meaningless game, but you figure, okay, let's get the offense going, and they score 9 points on the road against Tampa Bay. And after that, what did we say? Get rid of the head coach. You remember the conversation? You got to get rid of him. Got to get rid of him. Broncos won the NFC East last night with a 4-0 record versus the division. Go Broncos. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say about these Eagles fans and the Bunker Boys today. And I can't, I'm saying right now, and by the way, here's the problem too. Rats in a bunker will never man up. They won't. They refuse to. Why don't you have that much energy even talking about the Colts, Rams, and Buffalo? What do you need, a gummy? What did I say? I friggin' started the show saying that the Colts are in trouble, the Rams are friggin' flawed, and Buffalo's flawed. I mean, seriously, what do we got? Selective hearing today, Bunker Boy? Is the reception that bad in the mountains? The Colts are in trouble. They are. The refereeing yesterday was horrible. Did you guys see that? With the extra point? How the hell did they say that extra point was not good? But they're in trouble. I mean, I can't wait for friggin', he hate me, new headphone, who this, Vince to chime in, because his Jags actually showed up. Texans playing good football. Colts are in trouble. Buffalo, if you ask me right now, do I think Buffalo's in trouble? I don't. I think they're a little flawed, but they ran the football. And by the way, on Back Your Play, we told you take Cook in the over for the rushing yards. Lloyd and I did. Buffalo still has Josh Allen. They need to clean up their defense. The Rams, I'm not too worried about. I'm not. I just think it was a stub your toe game. Matthew Stafford was on such a heater. Matthew Stafford threw 26 touchdown passes without a pick. So he had a down game yesterday. It happens in the NFL. I mean, that's you get it out of your system. But the Rams, they can still score. Like, I'm not worried about the Rams because the Rams put up points. The Rams are 9-3. The Rams won what, 6 in a row? Prior to yesterday, where they were scoring 34, 42, 34, 35. I'm not worried about the Rams. I'm not. So they lost to the Panthers. The Panthers, showed up in a close game that the Rams could have won, by the way. And Stafford, his MVP, odds kind of take a touch, a smidge of a hit, but give Bryce Young credit. He was efficient, didn't turn the ball over, only got sacked a couple times through 3 touchdown passes. And what the Rams need to clean up is their run defense. Their run defense. But I'm not worried. Detroit, I think, is in trouble. The Eagles, I believe they're in trouble. I think Seattle is going to be okay. I think the Bears are showing you they're legit. I think the Rams are going to be okay. And this is not, it's me being objective. I'm not hating on these other teams. I'm not. I mean, I'm man up right now. Washington's been done for 4 weeks. I told you this team was going to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, what the hell do I know? The injuries killed them. Killed them, right? I will man up about the Niners. Kudos to Shanahan and Salah working with Slop. He has them fighting. 10 wins, man. 10 wins. Mac Jones is about to cash in. I think Mac Jones is under contract for next season as well. Q called the Broncos success back in August. The haters hate. They did. But that's okay. Listen. And by the way, Washington looked great last night. Injuries derailed their season. Again, correct. Again. Listen, Michael, we know this. The guy that always runs through the door first, he's under fire. We know that. He's the guy that gets pelted with the bullets. Ball 3162 chiming in. Happy Tea Thanksgiving. Hurts better stay healthy. Tanner gets in and looks good. It could be a circus. So I am so fascinated by you bringing that up right now. I am so fascinated by you bringing that up. I text a very good friend of mine, and I literally wrote, "Do not shoot me. Would you trade for Jalen Hurts? Would you give up 2 first round?" I can't believe we're even talking about this right now. Would you, if you are the Jets, if you are Arizona, and I understand Hurts' contract, I get it, but just hear me out. If you are Atlanta, New Orleans, Miami, teams that we know are going to need a quarterback, would you even consider giving up 2 first-round draft picks or a first and a second for Jalen Hurts? You're a quarterback needy team. I'm not suggesting it. I'm not going local on a Monday. I'm just having a conversation with you guys right now. Because I believe if this season goes south, if it goes south and they struggle again next year, contract be damned, the Eagles might be looking to replace Jalen Hurts. This is not a hot take. You don't need oven mitts. I'm just telling you right now. I also feel as though he's such a misunderstood quarterback and people still don't know how to gauge him. Is he good? Is he great? Is he average? Is he a product of talent around him? Was it lightning in a bottle? His stats suggest he's a great quarterback, do they not? Jalen Hurts' stats suggest this guy's a winning quarterback. This guy's 30-something odd games over 500. He's got over 100 touchdown tosses, not to mention all the ones with his legs. Like, I look at Jalen Hurts and I'm like, damn, he's a pretty damn good quarterback, is he not? Or is he good, at times great, too inconsistent, or a product of the environment? And there's going to be quarterback needy teams. There are going to be quarterback needing teams. From what I'm gathering, the Eagles absolutely love this kid, Tanner McGee. They absolutely love McKee. They absolutely love this kid. And listen, he is 25 years old. Everyone loves the backup, right? Obviously, Hurts is 27, I think 28. He'll be 28 in August. Went to the Super Bowl twice. We don't know how it's going to play out this year, but it's very interesting that Ball brings up that comment. We're having a bunker only meeting. There has been a rumored dog from Mount Laurel. Goated trick Cram from Mount Laurel into guaranteeing an Eagles victory, hence mushing the birds. Cram has to do better. Hey, listen, what you guys do on your own time, that's not on me. That's not on me. I don't know what to tell you. That's not on me. I mean, you guys need to figure it out. I don't believe there's any type of mushing going on. He also doesn't have 4-foot wide holes to run through this year. Yeah, you're talking about Saquon, right? How the line basically shuts that hole, shuts pretty fast. Cram and the dog lost to the king and the duke, or the duck in the semis. That's right. White man can't jump. Point of history, McNabb got benched in 08. Correct. You can't. Do not bench Hurts. That third down throw, was it Regis? Yeah, it was. So I remember I was covering the game that McNabb got benched. And they wanted a little spark on the road against Baltimore. And Kevin Cobb came in, and I remember, Kevin Cobb was so green. I mean, he was as green as they come, and everyone was talking about, he's going to be, the next great quarterback, this and that. And to this day, when I went back on the air that Monday in Delaware on 1290 The Ticket, the one play that stood out the most was what? Andy Reid, goal line situation, having this kid take a 7-step drop. And I remember saying on the air at the time, that falls on the head coach, because this kid was greener than the grass against that defense. Baltimore, there's absolutely no way in hell you have him under center. 7-step drop. You just can't. I mean, that, fireball, as we like to say, fireball fence, right? And if you also remember, too, what happened that game, they got waxed 36-7. But they also, after they benched McNabb and went back to him, went all the way to the NFC Championship. So if you're trying to draw some parallels, right? Hurts may have lost a team. Is there any truth Hurts wasn't invited to the players only meaning. There's so many goofy um, uh, issues and stories coming out right now on X, and you have to be very careful with some of these guys that you follow, and some of these guys that are just kind of troll accounts. My whole issue with Jalen Hurts is that you can't listen. You've got a lot of pressure right now because this team has dropped two straight games. And the reason I'm bringing them up is because, again, they're in our backyard. The listening audience is predominantly an East Coast audience, and they are the defending Super Bowl champs. So it's a story. So when all of a sudden you look at A.J. Brown's kind of gone silent, well, he got his touches, he got his reps, right? Okay, fine. Here's the problem. But you've got, you lose two games in a row. And you finally force fed the wide receiver touches and targets and touchdowns. And now A.J. Brown has gone silent. What does that tell you? Seriously, what does that tell you? A.J. Brown is all about who? A.J. Brown. And I'm sorry if it rubs some people the wrong way. This dude is selfish as they come. He's all about getting his. So when you're sitting there silent and you don't want to say anything, and oh, by the way, after the loss, did you watch post game when they said, is the scheme allowing players to get open? So you got a wide receiver who's a talented wide receiver who has made it a point to just air out his frustration with the social media post, the cryptic stuff, the going on Twitch and whatever the hell it is, a Bible verses, all this stuff. And if you think about the numbers, okay, so you had 7 wins for the Eagles. He was targeted 51 times. So you had the big matchup against the Packers. The Cowboys caught 1 pass, 2 passes respectively. That's when he started getting pissed off. Then they start feeding him the football like they did last season. He got his, and now he's friggin' happy. That's a problem. That's a problem. And when you have a quarterback that's adding to the offensive troubles, who's a Super Bowl MVP quarterback, and everyone was looking at this team as a defending Super Bowl champs, they're going to get back to the NFC. The road is an easy one going down 95 through Lincoln Financial Field in South Philly. No, it's not. It's not. And I don't know if this quarterback is taken among himself to just do it on his own, calling audibles. Maybe he's disinterested. I don't know. You expect it maybe from a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who's calling out wide receivers, who, again, he's got 1 foot out the door. I don't know. Is Jalen Hurts, he doesn't want to take it among himself, right? He's kind of hitting the brakes on design QB runs. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? So what does that do? That puts more heat on who? The offensive coordinator. And that puts more heat on who? The head coach. So when you get, former players, i.e. the Seth Joyners of the world, who still holds a lot of clout, Jason Avant, basically saying Saquon satisfied, or Joyner calling out A.J. Brown, or questioning Hurts' throws, decision-making, or whatever, you get this strong chorus, then it's got to be talked about. It's got to be talked about, especially in a year where there's such a down NFC. Really, it's down. You're not fired up for those teams. Q, take joy in reporting on the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles demise. It's not a demise. They're friggin', what are they, 8-4? They're going to win the NFC East. It's not a demise. It's just calling it the way I see it. The Colts have issues. Credit to Daniel Jones playing banged up and angry and hurt. I give him a lot of credit. But you can't tell me right now that the Eagles' offense is better than the Rams. So I really can't sit there and say the Rams are in trouble. They stubbed their toe. It friggin' happens in a 16, 17-week schedule. Their quarterback's playing at an all-time high level. He's due to have a bad friggin' game against a team that's playing hard. So your Panthers theory is shot to shit. Your Colts theory, is somewhat debatable. Okay, now they're dealing with the injury to Sauce Gardner, but I don't think anyone beginning of the season said Daniel Jones was going to lead the Colts to 10, 11 wins in the AFC South. And the Bills are still the Bills with Josh Allen, who is light years ahead of Jalen Hurts. And oh, by the way, is a reigning NFL MVP. I mean, come on, man. Come on, just stop. You're making yourself sound foolish on a Monday, and I don't want you to sound foolish on a Monday. Makes me happy seeing McGlinchey, Greenwall, Hurts, and DJ Jones on the Broncos. They're flourishing. Yes, they're. Listen, the Broncos are a very good football team. They're. My only concern with the Broncos is if they ever fell behind. Now, yes, we saw them do it on the road against the Eagles, and yes, we saw them do it at home against a bad Giant team. But if they're 17-3 on the road against Buffalo, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. If they have to go to Baltimore, which, I mean, I can't believe what I, saw over the weekend with the AFC North. I mean, Pittsburgh's done. What a friggin' fraud they are. But you got to go on the road against Baltimore. I trust Denver. I believe Denver can go on the road if need be, even though, you look at their record, they're 10-2. I'm just saying, if it ever came to that, we know that's not going to happen. Let me preface it by saying, if they fell behind against these teams, 17-3 against Buffalo, 17-3 against Baltimore, obviously they have home field advantage right now. That's a tough ask. That's a tough ask. But what Denver is doing really well is they're winning close games. They're winning close games. They beat the Eagles in a close game. They beat the Jets in a close game. They beat the Giants in a close game. They beat the Texans in a close game. They beat the Raiders in a close game. They beat Kansas City in a close game. And they won a game in overtime on the road. And Washington, to their credit, was going for 2. And Bonito turns around and basically sealed the win because they switched up the alignment on defense. That's a well-coached team, the Denver Broncos. And they have a very good to great defense. If they start cooking a little bit with some Crescent with their offense, they are going to be a serious, legit Super Bowl contender. I'm just saying it. No team is giving Philly 2 first-rounders. I said a first and a second. Where's Angel? He must be terrified of the rest of the season. Angel's, shaking hands, kissing babies, man, doing the USF, got the ice hockey going on. How about this? Angel covering the women's national team, getting a little plug the other day, right? Let's be real. A.J. Brown's ridiculous talent. Balls out. Moore's 50-50 passes all the time. Oh, my goodness. You talking about the throw where you had to adjust? Well done. I have no idea where Vince is. I have no idea. Vince, yeah, that's another animal, man. No. Oh! How about this? Vince turns around. New headphones, who this? AKA Heat 12 Man, AKA Heisman, AKA Steeler Nation, AKA Duval. How about my Jags, people? First place in the South, called a preseason. Got to get healthy and keep it going. Man up. I will man up. I will man up. I will man up. Vince is grinding, man, and we can appreciate that. I still don't know. Trevor Lawrence, to me, is such an enigma of a quarterback. Is there any other quarterback in the NFL that has the physical tools, but sometimes you're like, oh my God, what the hell is he doing? That was 8-4 right now, first place in the AFC South. They ran over the Titans. Look, the division's right there. You play the Colts twice. And, now the Colts are sitting there at like 13% to win a division. Jacksonville's right around 35, 40%. And don't forget, Houston's too. Houston's looking like they figured it out. They struggled early in the season. They had some bad losses. Their defense, Houston did the opposite of Indianapolis. Indianapolis banked early wins, right? Aside from, a couple, hiccups. Houston started the season 0-3. And they had to start to dig themselves out of that hole. And now you look at them, they won 4 straight. CJ Stroud coming back after the concussion, took a couple hits, threw for close to 300 yards, had to pick. But again, they ran the football. They ran the football and they got stops when they needed to get stops. And they also held Jonathan Taylor in check. So their defense, kind of like Denver, making some noise. But Jacksonville, yes, I'm going to man up on your Jags. I'm going to man up. I'm going to give you credit on Jacksonville. Hanging around. They got that alligator blood. They got some alligator blood, man. They really do. 100%. I absolutely do not trust Trevor when it matters, but he did win a chip in college, so I got to give him a shot, but only about 20% confidence. Can we mention Joe Tooney is the magical key to the team's success? New England, Kansas City, Chicago. Yeah. That's called anchoring the offensive line. That's exactly what the Bears are doing. I mean, everywhere that player has gone, he's been successful and he's won. Bear Nation 6 chimes in. Q catching the show for the first time. Appreciate the love to my Bears. I'm a big Williams fan. Did you see the progressions coming this fast? I was a little hit or miss on Caleb Williams, to be quite honest. Appreciate first time comment and you tuning in. I was a little hit or miss, but this kid's got a little swagger. And remember, they kept the GM and they fired the head coach and they brought in a very sound offensive coordinator and that coordinator, now head coach, and Ben Johnson, the personality you're starting to see, right? Taking the shirt off, being ripped in the locker room, like they're having fun. The Bears are having fun. They're not a great team. They're not. But I'm impressed because the Bears last season showed you they were mentally weak. They showed you. And I believe for the last several seasons, after they've taken some bad losses, I've always said, hey, they're not going to win another football game. Well, where did their season change last year? They were 4-2, coming off the bye, and they had the game gift wrapped against Washington, and they lost it. And then everything went south, right? I mean, if you're a Bears fan, everything went south. They gave up the Hail Mary play, and they finally won a game, which was the last game of the season against Green Bay that had nothing to play for. Nothing to play for. So you're talking about a team that was 4-2, and then they lost 10 straight games. And you knew changes were going to come, and there was a lot of question marks about the quarterback, his maturity or lack thereof of maturity. Is he seeing the field? Can he play? Is he selfish? Does he understand how to read defenses? So you trim the fat. That's what they did. They kept the GM. They entrusted him, go out and get the sexy hire. Get the sexy hire that can come in and understand this quarterback and work with this quarterback. And you're seeing it. Last year, he didn't have a lot of games where he threw for over $150. He's throwing for 212, 260, 252, 290, 280, 240. And he's been efficient. And they're running the football. They're running the football. And they play defense. Yeah, listen, going on the road and beating the Philadelphia Eagles, and that game wasn't even relatively close. I'm sorry. That game should have been a 31-13 kind of win, 31-16 kind of win for Chicago. I mean, they thoroughly dominated that game. Thoroughly dominate. Now, they're going to get tested when they go on the road against Green Bay. Then they've got Cleveland. Then they've got Green Bay at home, San Fran, and Detroit. So let's not, get too high and overreact with the Bears. But at this point of the season, yeah, I can say with confidence, if they continue to run the football and the quarterback plays the way he plays, efficient, mistake-free, smart football, and they can keep these teams offensively in check, yeah, they're a threat. 100%, they are a threat, but 9-3 can quickly turn to, 10-5, and you're starting to, get a little angst, and then you go on the road and you lose to San Francisco. Now you're 10-6, and you got to get that win against Detroit to win a division. They're a young team. They're a young team. Not many people in here trust guys named Trevor. That might be the text of 2025. Not bad. Not bad. Don't be smirch or be smitch. besmirched a good name of Trevor. Let me see what I got here. Joe Summers Point chiming in. Tom, I'll get to you in a second. Joe says, Q, I don't think it's being overly critical of Hurts, but I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that the offensive line is not the same line we've seen in years past. That's one of the reasons that Saquon is not having the type of season you and others envision. I think it's a lot of carries last year, man. I really do. You look at running backs that have career years and they have their 300 plus touches. Go see what they did the next season. The Priest Holmeses, right? The Terrell Davis, the Chris Johnsons, the Larry Johnsons, right? They don't put the type of numbers. I mean, his drop off is alarming. Now, is he 100%? Probably not. If that's the case, you're not going to get these. Here's the thing: if he's out there and he's good enough to play, then you got to give him the football. Like, you still have to, look, Saquon is still a very good back. And the threat of him potentially breaking one, it's always on the table. It's always on the table. So it would almost make more sense where I know he's struggling a little bit, and you can have a back by committee with him and Tank Bigsby. Okay, fine. But Saquon, if you keep hitting the hole, he's going to break it. It might take that 15th, 16th, 17th carry. Okay, it came easy against the Giants. First offensive play from scrimmage, he goes, 60-something odd yards. But he still has that capability of breaking one and getting loose. And you got to give him the football. I mean, they gave him, I think, a handful of touches in the second half. In a game, by the way, that they could have won. In spite of being dominated. I mean, think about that for a moment. In spite of being dominated the way they were dominated, they were still in that game. So you have to keep feeding, right? You guys remember the episode of Q on Q when I told Q to look up running backs with 400 touches and their following years. We did that. We can actually do it right now. Hold on. Running backs, 400 touches in a season. So I believe, so the 400 is a little, I think we are looking at 350, right? So let's go. Larry Johnson had Saquon. What do you have? Are you saying 400 total? I'd have to check. I thought he had about 350. I guess if we include the playoffs, but I know what your point is. Let's use Larry Johnson, for instance. Larry Johnson, he had 416 touches in 2006. He ran for 1,700 yards. He averaged 4.3 yards carry, 17 touchdowns. The next year, Larry Johnson only played 8 games. He got hurt. He was never the same after that. So there's Larry Johnson for you. Good example. DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray had 392 touches. He ran for 1,900 yards in 2014. Remember the DeMarco Murray, Philadelphia Eagles? He started in only 8 games, and he had 193 attempts, 700 yards. Never the same. What do we got here? Jamal Anderson. I mean, we're going back a little. Jamal Anderson, 410 carries, tore up his knee 2 games in. That's a bad example. Davis, Smith. Yeah, the list goes on and on. Jamal Lewis, 387. He actually had 235 the next season, but only played in 12 games. But your point's a valid one. Your point is a valid one. Saquon, no worries. You're adding playoffs in there. Okay. Oh, these are guys regular season, by the way. That's crazy. The guys that I gave you, man, were regular season. They weren't even talking playoffs. But your point is a valid one. Saquon Barkley had 345 carries during the regular season. Last year in the playoffs, he had 91. So let's just call it 100, 345, 445. But is it also, if that's the case, then you have to, wouldn't you want then to get a younger, fresher back in there like a Tank Bigsby? Like it's clear they ran him into the ground, but you're still paying him 20 something odd $1 million. And if he's not 100%, then that's what you're going to get. See, I think a guy like Saquon, like a um, Derrick Henry, or I'm trying to think, a Jonathan Taylor right now, like the really, a Robinson, the really great or good to great backs right now in the NFL, the 4 or 5 really good backs, the offenses are all predicated on what these guys do and how they open things up. So when we're looking at Taylor, Cook, Gibbs from Detroit, Robinson. Let's talk about the playoff teams. So we'll go Taylor, Cook. I'll give you Derrick Henry, whose numbers are comparable to Saquon this year. Both of them have had a ridiculous drop off. CMC having a great year. You need to get these guys rolling downhill early. They have to get in a rhythm. They have to get their touches. And if you're the Eagles and you have all these weapons, you have A.J. Brown, you have Smith, you have Goddard, you have Jalen Hurts, you have Saquon Barkley, you have the offensive line. And I know some guys are like, Q, go back to Lane Johnson and their record 15-24 without him. I understand all that, but it's next man up mentality, right, with the Philadelphia Eagles, because they draft well and they have depth. When you have these types of weapons, you need to put more points up. You have to. You have to. So again, it's not me bemoaning the point just on the Philadelphia Eagles. As I mentioned, there's other teams right now in the NFL that are flawed, but I trust them a little more. Baltimore, that's a bad division. And Pittsburgh had a horrible, horrible loss yesterday. I mean, you got I'll tell you, if you're a Giants fan, or if you are I'm trying to think, a Titans fan, or McDaniel, I think he's going to last in Miami, but let's just say he was still in the hot seat. Aaron Glenn in New York, who the hell knows? That was a big win for them against a bad Atlanta team, but it was a gut check win. Shout out Nick Folk, 50-something yarder, 41 years of age, in that downpour yesterday in MetLife. It just snuck home. I'm trying to think of other coaches on the hot seat. You're looking around and you're watching what's going on in Pittsburgh. You're probably thinking to yourself, Mike Tomlin's done. Like, done. Like, I'm telling you right now. We talked about this last season and during the offseason. Aaron Rodgers needs to go away. Seriously. Aaron Rodgers needs to just go away. Just go and retire and just go enjoy the friggin' whatever, the echinacea, euthanasia, hibiscus, ayahuasca plant. I don't care, whatever the hell it is. Go smoke and joke. Go away, man. Because it was only a matter of time before Aaron Rodgers reverts to the Aaron Rodgers everyone knows and loves. Right? Where he basically starts calling out teammates and it's always them. Aaron Rodgers looks around and goes, it's you, it's you, it's you. It's never me. Aaron Rodgers basically calling out his teammates, calling out his wide receivers. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is who this guy is at this point of his career. You don't take a flyer on him, right? You don't. Talking about getting on the same page, he did the same crap with Green Bay and the young receivers dropping passes because they were petrified on him. He did the same thing in New York. You got to placate this clown. Go out and get your guys. And how did that work out for you with Adams, who's not thriving anymore with you? He's thriving somewhere else. Talking about film sessions, show up. When I check to the route, you do the right route. We have meetings every week. We have other opportunities outside the facility. I look forward to seeing all the boys then. That's an indictment not only on how the organization is being run right now. Now, we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, but that's an indictment on the head coach, Mike Tomlin, for not holding players accountable. And it's also on Aaron Rodgers because that's airing dirty laundry. That's all that is. It's airing dirty laundry. And listen, he struggled to connect with these guys, but it's not like they stink. It's not like they stink. But he can't throw the football down the field anymore. He was 2 of 6, past 10 yards, 4.8. 4.8 per attempt. Like Aaron Rodgers needs to go away. Period. And you get Pittsburgh, you get the cascade of boots coming down on Tomlin. He looks defeated. He looks done. And that might be good news for other teams looking for a head coach. Mike in Ohio chimes in. Q, I don't know if you caught any of the Browns game. What'd you think of Sanders? I got to be honest, I did not catch a lot of it. I know the 49ers got the win. I know the Browns, the one thing about the Browns, they have a very good defense. They really do. They lost Collins, I think, to a quad injury, but they have a pretty good defense. I mean, it's just, again, they need wholesale changes, man. And I saw, you guys are tweeting at me, oh, Dylan Gabriel's girlfriend said that everyone in the Browns organization wants Dylan Gabriel to start. I'm just so over it. Let Sanders finish out the season to see what you have. I didn't watch the game. I saw highlights. I'm being totally honest. I pulled up his numbers now, 16 of 25, a buck 48 and a touchdown. I don't know what to make of it because I didn't watch the game. I'm just being fully transparent. I can't comment on it. I mean, I can comment on it, but I can't break down film for you. They got the Titans. That's a winnable game. And that might be it. 4 wins. And again, you got a quarterback, whether you like the kid or not, whether you like what comes out of his mouth, he understands the volatile position of being an NFL quarterback. He also understands that your job is never safe and secure in the NFL. He knows that from his father. Even though you're talking about a Hall of Fame player, he understands that. So I'm not going to sit there and say, he's so cocky, he's brash, he's arrogant, he hasn't done anything, put the other kid in. I don't even get into those conversations. The bottom line is there's going to be 4, 5, 6 teams that are going to need a major, major overhaul when it comes to their organizations. From GM down to head coach to coordinators to franchise quarterback. And oh, by the way, they don't have them. Jets are one of them. Giants are another one of them. Cincinnati, I think Taylor's on the hot seat. I don't care what anyone tells me, even though they got to win the other day. They got to win eventually because you're wasting Joe Burrow's prime. Stefanski and Barry, who knows where they're going to land. All I'm hearing from talking heads is, these guys will get hired in a second. Is that really the case? Titans, they've got issues, obviously. Saints have issues. Falcons have issues. Jets have issues. Cardinals have issues. How about Minnesota? Can we talk about Minnesota for a minute? You're going to tell me. And by the way, I pulled this up. They cut Adam Thielen. I just want to give you the, let me pull it up for a second. What they gave up. This is ridiculous. I mean, talk about fleecing for Thielen. Let me just pull it up real quick. I apologize, guys. I had it right here. All right, I'll find that. I know it's 5 o'clock. Got to take a quick time out. Lloyd's going to join us. Joe D in Summers Point. I'm sorry, Tom in Summers Point. Joe D in South Philly chiming in. Q, can you read the stat again with the Jets? Over the last 4 games, Jets have scored 78 points. The Eagles have scored 62. Barkley, Brown, Smith, Goddard, Dotson. You're going to tell me that offense is worse than the Jets? By the way, I want to get into some Lane Kiffin stuff too. Talk about rat of all rats. All right, 5 o'clock on the East Coast, 16 to books. 60 to play with on a Monday edition of On Cue. Lloyd Vance joins us in about 5 to 10 minutes. Keep the comments coming as well. You can hashtag on too. Don't forget. Get social with us on X and also on IG at Rich Q on Q. And of course, that's the best way to get social. YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Rich Q on Q. 5 o'clock, straight up, 16 to book, 60 to play with. Keep it locked in. Monday edition of On Cue. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, welcome back, everyone. Monday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. We are powered by our good friends over at Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea, fresh roasted coffee, and of course, play it again. Sports, two locations. Ready for that? Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's, man, I'll tell you. I think you talk about the hypocrisy of some of these coaches and the hypocrisy in college football. I give you Lane Kiffin. I give you Lane Kiffin. I mean, what a rat this guy is. Basically bailing on Ole Miss and taking the LSU job. And here's the problem. Like, you have a 99% chance of reaching the college football playoff 3 weeks before the playoff begins. And, you know, what do you do? It basically just takes one school, in this case, LSU, who, oh, by the way, their governor, right? Governor is running their coaching search. They couldn't wait until the friggin' season ended, right? We have no patience in this world. Zero. No patience. We're not going to wait. We want to make our next move. So here we go. Let's go after a clown, a talented head coach who's a friggin' clown, by the way, who's got a long ass history of burning bridges. And all they've done is set a horrible precedent. And Kiffin basically hung Ole Miss out to dry. This is not Lane Kiffin the victim. So stop the friggin' nonsense with that. Seriously, stop. Because now the precedent has been set every time a college, a university's football program is getting to the point where we're going to fire the guy, or you got a lame duck head coach. Now, everyone in the fan base and the boosters and the alumni, they're all going to sit there and say, get it done as soon as possible. Why? So we can get a head start. And if you're a candidate, if you're interviewing for that job, then the university and the school is going to sit there and say, I need to know right now. Are you with me? Or are you not with me? If you're not, we're going to go in a different direction. That's the problem. That's the ugly precedent that's been set. And the rat ship, the mothership, trying to portray Lane Kiffin like a villain. I'm sorry, Ole Miss like a villain. I mean, are you kidding me? I can't even fault LSU. This is Lane Kiffin, man. This is Lane Kiffin. Like, all right, here's the perfect example of I don't know if the grass is greener on the other side. I mean, come on, man. You're going to sit there and say, I'm going to paint Ole Miss as a villain because, we're not going to allow the coach, to stick around for the guy's leaving. He doesn't listen. He's not being, he wants no parts. He jumped to LSU. He could have stuck around and told LSU, let me get through. I owe it to the university. I owe it to the alumni. I owe it to the fan base. Oh, by the way, I friggin' owe it to all these young kids whose houses I went in to recruit. That's embarrassing, man. It is such a nasty, ugly precedent that's been set. And here's the worst thing. The worst thing, and I was reading this online, and I forget who tweeted this, and I wanted to give credit, but I apologize, but just know I appreciate the information that you threw out there. The NCAA has, that new rule of the transfer portal, right? So basically, what it does is it condenses the previous winter and spring windows into a 15-day window from January 2nd to the 15th. That's about a month later and a week shorter than before. So here's the logic behind that, the rationale. Let me cut down on players entering the portal prior to the end of their team seasons. So wait, you can't make this shit up. You can't. So now, if you go back after a coaching change, athletes basically, the players, are free, you can call it like a 30-day window that you can enter the portal. Think about that. Enter the portal. Now, under this new policy, it's beyond a screwed up situation, by the way. Under this new policy now, you are basically, it's been cut in half, 15 days. And it doesn't begin until 5 days after a new coach is hired. So who pays the price? Who pays the price? Right? The kids do. The players do. The players do. I'm sorry. That is a slimy thing to do. It is. And you feel bad for the players. And the hypocrisy is now I got to wait. And the other thing is now every friggin', so if you get a Penn State situation with James Franklin, get him out, get him out, get him out, get him out, get him out. Start the search right away. You interested? You better take the job now. Kevin goes wherever the wind goes, or in this case, money. Why not stay at Ole Miss, build a legacy, and continue to make runs at CFPs? Because he's just not a good guy. He's not. He's not a good guy. He really isn't. Imagine you're walking into 17, 18-year-old living rooms, right? And you're basically sitting in there having a cup of coffee, having a cookie or a piece of, pie, piece of cake, and you're selling their parents. Because that's what you're doing. You're not recruiting the kid. Like that's a misconception in college sports. I'm not selling your kid on why you should play or why you should come to my university. No. What I'm selling mom and dad. Because at the end of the day, as much as the kid says it's his decision, it's mom and dad's decision. 99% of the time, they're cutting the check. Or if you get a scholarship, more power to you. But point is, you're selling why I want you to come to Ole Miss. Why I'm going to take care of your son for the next 4 years. I'm going to turn this young man, this young boy into a man. He's going to get an education. He's going to play football. We're going to take care of him. And that's the problem I have with the portal too, because it's false hope, false bravado, false promises. And now you know why the players want to do what they do. And I'm telling you, man, it's a Bush League way of departing. It is. There's really no other. You cannot defend it. You can't. So everyone's talking about the exit, and everyone's reacting to the comments. The chance to coach Ole Miss during the college football playoff run. And again, Kiffin allegedly gave his former coaches Ole Miss an ultimatum to either leave with him this past weekend or lose the opportunity to join him and his new staff at LSU. That is a rat move, man. That is lowbrow, low-class Bush League. It's a veiled threat. I mean, come on, man. You're talking about guys that also have livelihoods that are trying to put kids through college and put food on the table and have bills to pay and rent and mortgages. I mean, who the hell is friggin' Lane Kiffin? Seriously, you invent the friggin' sport of football? Really? Seriously. I mean, come on. And I'll tell you this right now, I would be very weary of following this man. Yeah, he's going to lead you. He might lead you to a path you don't want to walk down. He might lead you to some place you don't want to be. It's not an indictment on the programs. It's about the person, the character, the man. You got 4 seasons, 4 years with these friggin' kids, with these young kids. And now you got an opportunity to do something special and you bolt. That's all he did. He bolted. You decide to leave him high and dry. If I'm one of these players, I'm like, screw you, Lane Kiffin. Seriously. I don't have a problem with people wanting to pursue other avenues. No one should. It's free will. It's one of the reasons we love this country, right? You have an opportunity. You have a choice, right? And you make that choice. You make your decision based on sound information, right? Advice that you're gathering from family and friends. You want to go and look for another job, make sure you got something lined up. Okay, fine. Then you put your 2 weeks in, you give notice. If it's not working out and you really need to get out of there, there are certain exceptions, certain situations, right? But you're talking about head coaches and universities that make millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And these coaches get paid handsomely. All we're asking is a little solid, man. Hey, do us to solid. We've had a great run. Let's do something special. I think LSU will wait. LSU will still be there. You verbally agreed, run through us. But then, of course, you also run the risk. Is he all in? Is he all involved? But point is, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. There's a right way and a wrong way. And a lot of times, we don't do that. We don't see that. That's the problem I have. There are some jobs where you can't stick around. You can't. You can't. Nor do you want to stick around. You're like, this is not working. This is not working for me. I have to go in a different direction. And there are some situations where you're like, enough is enough. This is a bad spot for me. I'm not happy. I'm miserable. I'm getting stressed. It's not working for me. These guys make a shit ton of money. A shit ton of money. And you got to do right by the kids, don't you? You have to. You have to. Because now, these kids, if they enjoyed playing for them, they're going to bolt, and now you depleting the program. So it's like, all right, I want to build with you. I'm recruiting you. Here you go. Let's see this through. So it's not about pursuing other avenues. It's basically how you left. And people should have a problem with that. So you're talking about a coach, and you've got assistants, you've got a coaching staff, right? It's about culture, the organization, in this case, university, everyone else, admin, everyone. So I'm watching you grind, I'm supporting you 12, 13, 14, 15-hour days, and then the check clears and you leave me high and dry. I don't know, man. It's a bad look. It really is. It's just a bad look. Kimmon did what 100 of coaches before him alone go for the money. He's not special or different, just the latest flavor. But not every coach has done that. There's a right way of doing it. There's a right way of doing it. That's all I'm saying. If the handwriting is on the wall, that's one thing. That's one thing. But again, man, you're right there. Finish it out. See it through. That's Bush League. That's all I'm saying. That sets a bad example. That it just does. It sets a bad example. That's why the Kiffin told assistant coaches about come with him or else. Yeah. It's a bad look, man. It's a bad look. It is. It's not how you carry yourself. And that's where you burn the bridges. Like, this isn't even like an amicable divorce. This is like, get the hell out right now. I don't want to see you. I can't even look at your face. And it's not how you. And I understand when you make a lot of money and you're in high ranking positions and you start to make the FU money, you really don't give a shit what anyone thinks. I understand all of that. I get it. I get it. Right? And now, he's got an opportunity. If he leads LSU to a national title, if you look at the contract, you look at the devil, the detail, and the devil's in the details. He's got a clause. He'll be the highest paid college coach in the sport. So to Jovan's point, right, the root of all evil, it's money. It's money. It's money. But to sit there and tell your coaching staff, fish or cut bait, come with me or that's it, that's Bush League. I don't want to work for a guy like that. I don't want that guy in my circle. And you're leaving the kids high and dry. You're that close. Imagine an NFL coach the week of the NFC Championship or the AFC Championship saying, yeah, you know what? I'm going to resign. Void out my contract. Oh, by the way, I'm going to the rival next season, which starts now. It's just, I just don't like it. Cue the NCAA in the portal. It's a complete mess. How do you fix it? Could be discussion for another day. Here's okay. The NIL is in place for what? The NIL is in place to give the players a little flexibility, a little freedom. Now, there are certain things about NIL and the transfer portal, I should say, that I don't like, but I understand why the rules are set the way they are. So you can transfer and you're immediately eligible if you're academically eligible. And if the university, the college, the school can assist, so be it. The issue is that when you have a coach like this does what he does, and if he has 4 or 5 really good stud players that are, say, are sophomores or juniors, or he's already been in somebody's home and he starts to recruit, now you're going to see what? These kids are going to pretty much, decommit and they're going to jump to go to him. So now you're actually hurting Ole Miss and you're strengthening LSU. Like, to Michael's point, that's kind of the tightrope that you're walking. And it's never a good thing. And I understand why the players want to do what they do, but I also think, like anything else in life, there's right ways and wrong ways to do things. That's all. Almost certain the NIL was the reason Saban dropped everything and went to TV. It's 100% the reason. He didn't want to deal with it anymore. He didn't want to. It's also a lot of reasons where these college basketball coaches are like, the one and done rule, right? When Dan took CU job, he finished the season at Jackson State and their bid for the HBCU championship. This went this way because of where he went, period. The fix to all this is collective bargaining for coaches and players alike. You're never going to get that in college. All rules in place to address the NIL signing coaches and all that. This could be fixed with leadership. You're bringing in CBA, collective bargaining. Never going to happen because you're talking about college athletes. You're still talking about kids. Now, the NIL gives them opportunity to make a substantial amount of money, to your point, which is a valid one. That's a valid one. But you start to bring in CBA in the conversation. It's a good point, and it's a good take on theory, but it's never going to fly. And you're right. So coaches do finish out their time in their tenure. Kevin chimes in, North Jersey. Q, I'm going to get your take on the Giants, but good analogy. You're talking about if a head coach goes to the NFC, AFC championship. Sorry, guys, I'm out of here. That is, at the end of the day, a really bad look. I'd never cared for Lane Kiffin. P.S. I wouldn't want him for the Giants job. Yeah, Giants and the Pats tonight. By the way, looking around as a whole, the weekend, NFL, and I'll still get your comments on Kiffin. We mentioned the Packers, 31-24. Lions have some issues. I think the over-aggressiveness of Dan Campbell is going to bite him in the ass. Kansas City, are we ready now? Are we close to saying Kansas City's cooked, guys? Or you don't want to do that yet? I'll give you one more week. I'm going to give you one more week. If they lose to the Texans, can we now sit there and say they're done? They're cooked? Now, I know the Chargers have the issue with Herbert in his hand. He's good. He's good to go against Philadelphia Eagles. So let's not think for 1 minute he's going to miss any time. Cincinnati, that's a crippling loss by Baltimore. We talked a lot about the Bears over the Eagles. 49ers, they're going to get their 10-11 wins. Offensively efficient. Jacksonville with the big win. Lawrence made some big throws. Defense played very well against a bad Titans team who is just really bad. You talk about trying to fix that culture. Here's the other thing. Somebody asked me this on Saturday. They asked me if I would prefer the Giants to lose outright and try to get the top overall pick. Well, the thing is, Tennessee is going to get the top overall pick. I am not a proponent of tanking. Owners want to tank. GM and coaches and players don't. It's a theory. That's all it is. It's not, it's like, I don't believe it's tangible. So the reason I bring it up is because the Giants are 2-10, and I don't know if they're going to win tonight. They might win one more game. And if they finish 3-14, we know they're going to look for a new head coach. But I bring it up because you want to win football games with young quarterbacks. You want to give them something to hang their hat on. Why am I going out here every Sunday? So if the Giants last season, everyone's saying tank, tank, tank. Well, what if they did get the number one draft pick? They got Cam Ward. They're not looking at Jackson Dart. And I'm not going to suggest that Cam Ward's not a franchise quarterback. I haven't watched Tennessee enough to know that. And the kid is just not getting helped out. You fire the head coach 4 or 5 games in, never a good look. And the offensive line stinks and he's running for his life. But be careful what you wish for, is my point. Because the Giants, I believe, have a franchise quarterback in Jackson Dart. So tanking to me is this idea. It's this idea. Players don't give up on plays, they make business decisions because at the end of the day, some of them have quit. But when you say tanking as a whole, that affects what? It affects what? It affects their bottom line. Stats, money, incentives, bonuses. Totally different argument in the NBA. So owners in the NFL might sit there and say, you know what, let's just rest the kid. Here we go. Let's get the top pick. And that's going to be Tennessee again. Um, Saints are going to need a quarterback. The Raiders are going to need a quarterback. Cleveland's going to need a quarterback. Jets are going to need a quarterback. Arizona might need a quarterback. So be careful when you start to bring up tanking, tanking, tanking in the NFL. You have to really be careful with that. I believe when you have a young team and you're trying to build a winning culture, you got to go out and win some football games. You got to go win out some football games. Let me get to a couple. I got some Kiffin. Um, what do we got here? Trying to get to what you guys are saying. What do we got there? Robbie chimes in. Q, did you see that Kiffin didn't even change his profile? Oh man, yeah. Listen, it's just slimy, man. Seriously, it's just slimy. It is, and that's one of the reasons that you had all these fans go to the airport and do what they did, and you know, saying one thing is one thing. You don't have to throw stuff. Like I read somewhere that they were throwing rocks at Kevin Patullo. Some kids were throwing rocks at Kevin Patullo's house. Eagles offensive coordinator. You don't need to do that kind of nonsense. That's punkish. It is very punkish. Michael chimes in. Q. Broncos need a Patriots loss. Can you do me a solid and get a win? Hey, listen. I will try my best. I'm not suiting up for you, Miguel. I will try my best. I think the Giants are very live tonight. I would just say that. All right, 5:30 on a Monday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones is here. We're powered by our very good friends over at Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. Fresh roasted coffee, 20% off your first purchase. You can check out the promo code BYP20. And I know he didn't fall asleep during the holidays because he joined me on Friday, on Saturday on BYP. Our good friend Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. You'll catch him tonight, hopefully at 8 on SR 1029 FM, the game. Of course, Coastal Sports Digital Network. My friend, how are you?
Oh, doing great, Q, man. It's exciting time. There's a lot of football to watch, and yeah, I enjoyed it, man. And we got one more game tonight.
Yeah, overreaction on a Monday, if you will. The Rams, is that a stubbing the toe against the Panthers?
They may have looked past them a little bit, Q, but you got to tip your cap to the Panthers, the way that they played, and they came out, and it was a tough environment. It was raining out there, it was cold, and let's not forget, you got a team coming from the West Coast playing in the elements, and they had those bad turnovers, by Stafford, and it was one of those situations. It's a week to week league. We always talk about this. I mean, they go from being the NFC number one seed to now you're kind of questioning, are they the definitive favorite going into playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Stafford, you're allowed to have one bad game. Now, if we start to put the panic meter right now, Indianapolis is that again, tough opponent. That division's getting a little more tighter in the AFC South. That was a winnable game yesterday. The refereeing was horrible, let's be honest. I mean, that missed extra point, which was a good extra point. I mean, how concerned are you right now with the Colts, and do you think that Jacksonville is now in the driver's seat to win the AFC South, or do you like the Texans?
It's going to come down to the end, Q. It's going to be interesting because all three of those teams are in a mix. If I had to decide, I'd still probably say the Texans and their good divisional record. They have probably a pretty good chance. Jacksonville still they're doing a nice job, but I'm just having a tough time buying into them. But Trevor Lawrence just keeps stacking up W's. Or 8-4. They would be in the driver's seat right now in the division uh, right now, and they'd be the number one three seed in the AFC. So yeah, it's a tough one, and Indy, it's crazy. Q, they were up there, and then they're starting to struggle, and a lot of teams are starting to stack the box against Taylor. And you're saying,
Yep.
okay, Daniel Jones beat us, and their defense has some injuries on it. So they're going to have to regroup, and you're starting to wonder, did they have an easier schedule the first
Correct.
time around? So
They banked a lot of wins early. They
they
banked a
did.
lot of wins early. Yeah. And now you got the injury with Sauce Gardner as well. New headphones. Who it is? I think Lloyd also doubted my Jags this preseason. I'll take a man up apology from him as well.
Oh, jeez. Can't win, Q, man. But it's crazy. It's week to week, and you can't look too far ahead in the NFL. There's just so much parity, and you're seeing that in terms of some of these bad teams still have a lot of fight in them. Yeah, there's some really bad teams like Tennessee and New Orleans, but some of them really are going to fight you to the end.
Pittsburgh, we pretty much classified them as a fraud. And now you're starting to see Aaron Rodgers. Well, we kind of already knew who he was, but you're really starting to see Aaron Rodgers, right? Starting to throw the wide receivers under the bus, show up, this and that. You got fire, Tomlin, Chance. I mean, I know we've had this conversation, and I'm starting to think right now, Rodgers one and done, and this might be it for Tomlin, man, because it's getting pretty ugly pretty fast in Pittsburgh.
Yes, Q, and we talked about that playoff win drought by the Steelers, 2015-16, and it's like, okay, has the message waned? And Rodgers is just not a good teammate. You know what I mean, Q? And they brought that situation in the door. They were hoping that could work for one season, have that last dance type of feel, but it's just not coming together. And then DK Metcalf, they're wiping an egg off their face with that because they kept him and they let George Pickens go, who's having one of the best seasons in the National Football League. And their defense cannot stop the run, Q. They're good pass rush, but they cannot stop the run. So a lot of problems in Pittsburgh. Going to be interesting to see how they play against the Ravens this upcoming game.
So I know Saturday we did a little instant reaction on the Eagles and the offense, and Sirianni still is going to stick with Kevin Patullo. Look, we know it's a very long season in the NFL, but you and I started to draw the comp to 2023 when they were 10-1, then they finished 10-6, or I should say, what was it, 11-6, 11, and they lost on the road against Tampa Bay in the playoffs. They pretty much no showed offensively. How do you fix this offense right now? Or is this just a question of that the offensive line is banged up? Saquon, you look at the carries last season, he's not as productive. Hurts not seeing the field. Like, I feel as though, are we throwing everything in the stew and it's like a culmination of, four or five different things? Or do you have a solution? What would you suggest right now? And would it start with Sirianni stripping Kevin Patullo of the play calling duties?
Hugh, it's a multitude of things, and I'll just go down the list. Patullo is Sirianni's guy. He's been there ever since Sirianni's taken over the job, so he's been on the staff. He's slid him forward, and I think it's almost like he's cutting off his nose to spite his face. He will not take that play calling from him. Another big thing is this offense is very generic. It's vanilla. A lot of teams have already figured it out too. And they're running similar plays the last season that had already been diagnosed. So that's a big problem. The offensive line, we know it's been beat up. We've only played one game together all season, and Saquon's not hitting the hole. So just so many factors. I think, in terms of, okay, get the lifeboats and try to figure out something. I think if they try to go back to running the football with effectiveness, they've gotten away from it. Saquon Barkley has rushed for less than 60 yards in like 4 out of the last 6 games. So they've got to find a way to get that running game going. And it'll take pressure off of Hurts because let's face it, Q, if he throws it over 30 times, they're probably losing the game. He's just not driving the football down the field enough. So lots going on with this offense, and they got to clean it up real quick because Dallas is coming.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're still in pretty solid position to win the NFC East, but now you're looking at home field advantage, and the Bears, they've got that distinction right now. home field advantage in the playoffs, even with the Rams tripping up. Detroit, again, we talked a little bit about Detroit on Saturday's show when we were recapping all the Thanksgiving Day games. I just, I don't know, man. I'm not feeling it. I feel as though their window to win a championship has kind of passed. I mean, they need to approach this game against Dallas as a must win, do they not?
They do, Q, and I kind of agree with you that changes are going to need to be made there. Losing those two coordinators was huge, and now Dan Campbell. Let's face it, he's a good figurehead, but in terms of leading an offense and play matriculation, that's just not his thing. And then defensively, they've had a lot of injuries and guys in and out of the lineup, so they'll point to that. But that this was a game they should have won. Green Bay was kind of hanging around. They weren't playing real well early on, inconsistency of love, but then they broke the game open. So it's and also the Lions are kind of undisciplined. Q. They have a lot of penalties each week, and you just see a lot of holes with this team. So you're starting to say, okay, was last year their peak 15-2 in a regular season, and they lose in their first playoff game?
New England, Seattle, Chicago, Denver. Out of those four teams, who would you say right now, as of today, is a legit threat to win the Super Bowl?
All right, so it was New England, Denver.
Chicago, Denver, and Seattle.
Ooh, I think they're all in the mix, Q. But I really like Seattle. Seattle, they seem like a complete team. I know they beat up on a very bad team starting a rookie quarterback, but they have a complete team.
Oh, that means you have confidence, though, in my guy.
I was getting ready to say, as long as he's protecting the football, not turning it over, they have the running game with Charbonnet and Walker, and the defense has a lot of teeth. They're getting turnovers. Yeah, Seattle's up there. New England, I still want to see them in a big spot, Q. Yes, we know they beat Buffalo in week 5, but we're going to see in the next couple weeks who they really are because they have the Giants, they're by, then Buffalo, at the Ravens, at the Jets, Miami. So there's some key games in there, and you really want to see Drake May come from behind. You know what I mean? Drive his team down the field for a game-winning situation. So, but they're looking very strong, and the road may go through New England.
That's one of the reasons I brought up Denver, right? Because offensively, they're but I think if they start, you know, getting in a flow with their offense and you're not asking Bo Nix to do anything extraordinary, as long as they play that team defense and they run the football, I think they're dangerous coming out of the AFC. I still think, you know, do we now say the Chiefs are done?
Uh, uh, you know me, I wasn't ready to bury him,
No, no,
but
I know.
so
That's why
it's
I'm
looking that
asking.
way. Q. After that loss, they're 6-6. They're looking up. It seems like everybody in terms of getting into the playoff race. You have Houston ahead of them. Yeah, yeah, Buffalo. All these teams. It may be a case too where they just can't jump all these teams in such a short period of time. So, yeah, they're in trouble.
Yeah, and I bring it up because ultimately, if you look at the AFC, you would still argue that Buffalo is still Buffalo because of Josh Allen. So if we dismiss Kansas City, Indianapolis, or whoever comes out of the AFC South, I believe, Denver, they get home field advantage, or New England, you get a home game. I can see them beating any of those teams at home. Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Houston. If Buffalo's got to go to Denver or Buffalo has to go to New England and they jump on top of those teams 14-3, 17-3, I'm a little like I would be a little concerned that that Denver, New England, because they're a young team with young quarterbacks, would be able to come back from those games with down from that deficit. Does that make sense?
True. Yeah, that's a key factor I'm looking at. Q. These are young quarterbacks that have not been in these situations yet. Bo Nix made the playoffs last year. But is he going to be able to drive his team down the field? And let's face it, Denver, that was an ugly win last night. I watched that whole game, and you're starting to wonder, is RJ Harvey and McLaughlin, are they going to be enough in terms of running the football? Yes, their defense has a lot of teeth, but some inconsistency in terms of passing and targets and big plays down the field from some of their receivers. So Denver, I'd probably favor New England more getting to that number one spot than Denver. And then you have these veteran quarterbacks. Buffalo was kind of struggle on the road. The Houston game, the Atlanta game. So, but they're probably going to be a wild card because New England is just so far ahead of them.
I'll tell you though, I saw in the highlights because I was in and out counting sheep before I had to do the overnight broadcast. They did something Denver did that I've been waiting for them to do all season long. They finally got Ingram into the mix. I think they target him 9 or 10 times. I still believe he is going to be an integral part of that offense. Michael wants to know, hey, we're not talking about New England's schedule compared to Denver's, but ultimately, let's be fair, right? You got to play who's on the schedule. And Denver has had a very tough schedule. New England, at the end of the day, sure, you can look at, I know Man brought this up. I know Tom and Vince brought it up last week. I think Man was the first to talk about, look at the quarterbacks that New England has played. Obviously, you get Dart tonight. You got Josh Allen. You got Lamar Jackson, and then probably Taylor and Tua to close it out. So three of those games would be a little tricky. But you got to play who's on the schedule at the end of the day, right?
Correct, and it's getting at home field advantage, and there's no strength of schedule. So if they have the better record, they're going to get that bye, which will help get them fresh and get them ready for the postseason. And Denver, they're going to have to step up because this is a tough division, and Denver, they're at Las Vegas. It's probably a win. They have Green Bay, Jacksonville, at Kansas City. So
So right now, who's the best team in the AFC?
oh, it's a tough one too. I think New England is still the best team. I think
Really?
they're probably going to win tonight, and the record says they're the best. So and Denver kind of struggled this week. So as we say, week to week league. I think New England's going to look pretty strong this week against the Giants
Do
tonight.
you give New England the edge because of the quarterbacking play? I feel as though you're a bigger believer in May than you are Bo Nix.
Bo Nix is very inconsistent, and Drake May is showing that dual threat ability, and they can run the football too. The Stevenson's getting healthy, and then you have Henderson coming in there, who's an explosive back. You have Diggs, Hunter Henry. Now, in terms of offensive line, I'd favor Denver. They're and then defensively, obviously, their defense is,
You
is,
know,
is much better.
what's interesting? Like Denver has a great defense, and I feel like I'm short-sighted or narrow-minded because the Houston Texans, you're talking about total yards allowed per game. If this team didn't struggle early on, I think right now the top 3 or 4 defenses in the NFL, and you guys can rank them however you want. The Texans, Denver, Seattle, and I know they're a bad team, but Cleveland's right there.
I agree. Those four defenses are just dominant, and yeah, it's tough for Cleveland. That defense kept them in a game against the Niners, but the thing is, they all have kind of shut down corners, and
Yeah.
they can shut off one side of the field, and then they do a nice job against the run. The big thing though with Texans is they just bring so much heat, and Denver as well, because Denver is right. I think they're number 2 right now in terms of sacks in the National Football League.
Lloyd Vance kind enough to join us a couple moments on a Monday. Monday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. Oh, the Denver faithful coming out. I would worry about more Houston than New England. Would worry more about them. Talking about Denver Broncos. We do talk about some of these coaches on the hot seat a lot, and I think we kind of know who's going to be out of a job in a couple more weeks. I am curious to get your thoughts on O'Connell and Minnesota because that quarterback. I mean, I know. I don't know if you've already tweeted it. How do you not give him a lackey? But again, that kid's in a unfortunately a poor bad spot. But do we start to kind of look at him? You're supposed to be this quarterback whisperer, and it just hasn't panned out. And they definitely have to have buyer's remorse, not resigning Darnold and/or Daniel Jones.
Well, Ziggy Wilf, the owner there, is definitely going to look at this situation and say, okay, is it the injuries or the big thing though? Dolfo Mensa is the GM there as well. Misevaluation of JJ McCarthy. I mean,
Oh,
can
huge.
you go forward with him?
Oh,
Misevaluation on Max Brosner. I mean, you see him, you can't have him as your back. I mean, 5 turnovers, sacked 4 times. He just did not look like a professional quarterback. They needed to have a veteran guy there. And then exacerbated, Q, we always talk about this. They had Daniel Jones, they had Sam Darnold on their roster, and they let both of them get out the door, and this is what they're left with. So, you know, A lot of malpractice there, and we'll see how the Wilf brothers kind of decide what they want to do. I tend to think O'Connell's built up some goodwill there, though, Q, in terms of last season.
Most impressive victory of the weekend.
Well, I mean, you could easily go with the Carolina Panthers and what they did in terms of the LA Rams. That was a big one. And then don't forget about the Buffalo Bills. I know the Steelers are a little downtrodden, but going on a road, Pittsburgh is a tough place. There was snow out there. They took care of their business. It was a close game, 7-3 at halftime, and then they kind of stepped up in the second half. So those were some impressive wins to me.
I know every season we talk about parity in the NFL, and I just feel like this is no different. I mean, there's not a juggernaut, and when we think they're a juggernaut, they lose.
Yeah, it's wide open, and reminds me, back in like '08, I believe it was a season where there were all these teams that came in at similar records, and next thing you know, you got an NFC Championship game is the Eagles versus the Cardinals. Nobody even thought that was going to happen, and yeah, New England was in the mix as well, but then you had the Steelers in there, so it's wide open. So and the the crazy thing here was 10 wins may not be good enough in some of these
Years past, it was
conferences. Yeah,
always you. Yeah, interesting. You bring up 2008 because one of the commenters mentioned we were talking. Someone said that they should have benched Hertz and put Tanner McKeon as a spark, right? And somehow we got on McNabb against Baltimore, Ed Reed going 90 something odd yards, bench. That season, though, they went back to McNabb, obviously, and they went all the way to the NFC uh, championship. So go figure. How about tonight? Dart's back. Everyone's pleading for him. Get down, get down. I know that's not a style play. Tracy's starting to come on a little bit. The Giants play hard. Robinson, Theo Johnson. I think the Giants are a very, very live dog in this game. Now, I'm not going to tell you they're going to win the game, but I'm going to tell you right now, I think this game is going to be extremely close heading into the fourth quarter. And who the hell knows if the Giants have the lead, if the defense is going to be able to make a stop. But I would grab the Giants, plus 7.5, 8.
yeah, I would. I think it's a field goal game, and that's the only big advantage that
So the
the
Giants are going to lose
Patriots
on a
have.
field goal, which is nothing
Exactly.
new.
Their
Thanks.
kicking
Thank you.
game.
Appreciate
I'm
that.
sorry, their kicking game's not the best. That's the only thing. But I think they're going to fight to the end. Kafka is going to go for it on, third downs. He'll open up the playbook. Fourth downs, he'll be aggressive. So yeah, he has nothing to lose as the interim head coach. So I think the Giants come in there and put forth a good effort. But Vrabel is really instituting that veteran type style with this team, and you have Robert Spillane and a bunch of guys on defense that are probably going to make some plays.
Here's my question, Joe Shane. We talked a lot about Dable getting, he's fired. You get Kafka, the interim head coach, calling the plays. You fire Shane Bowen. Okay. We know a new DC, interim DC, but this is a big spot. Jackson Dart's coming back. You got a national audience. Obviously, you got big markets, New York, you got Boston, you got New England, you got the Pats, you got the Giants, Monday Night Football. Here we go. All eyes on Dart, May, maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the road. These are top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, whatever. To me, I feel like if Joe Shane wants to state his case for remaining GM with the New York Giants, the Giants not only have to have a good showing, but they also have to win the game. And they have to do something they never do: win on prime time and win on the road.
It's a big spot for Joe Sheen. Everybody's saying, okay, he's going to have another draft, and he had a pretty good draft last season. That's really kind of what saved him. But the team needs to finish strong too. And he's the architect of it. Even though they're missing a lot of pieces, with neighbors and so forth, but they need to have the guys that are out there put forth a strong effort and him be the leader. And then the mayor's got to have that confidence that he can pick the right head coach. I still think with Dart, you want to pair him with, the new hottest offensive coordinator type, somebody that's going to open the playbook up for him. Obviously, he can use his legs, he can do all the things that we talk about that Drake May's doing so well right now. I mean, he could be that type of dynamic player. So big off season for the Giants, but it starts these last couple weeks this season.
Eagle 6 chimes in. Q, I love your NFL talk. I love when you have Lloyd on. I know you're talking about the Eagles and you brought up some really interesting points. Here's one for me. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl, gave him more power. He never moved on from Press Taylor. He basically died on that mountain, Q. And then look what happened to Dougie P. So, again, the point is, are we going to get a repeat of that? Like, does Howie Roseman or Lurie need to step in and say we're trying to get back to? I mean, at this point, if Sirianni, if you strip Patullo or fired the offensive coordinator, I think Sirianni made the comment. It was a little different when he took over the play calling a couple seasons ago. I guess, why is he so reluctant to make a change?
We've talked about this. He's very stubborn, and then he's
But
kind
is
of
it going to cost him his job?
he's smug. He won last year, and everything clicked and everything, so he thinks he can just roll it out and do it again. But I don't think it'll cost him his job. To answer your question, he's built up that goodwill with the owner and Howie Roseman. But it may be a case like Doug Peterson, where they brought him in and they said to Peterson, "You need to fire these four assistants, get rid of them," and he wouldn't do it. So, and then he walked, to Jacksonville. So, Sirianni shouldn't be so overconfident that he's won so much that they can't do anything to him, because a lot of times these coaches, they get complacent. I covered Andy Reid that last season. We talked
Brutal.
about Juan Castillo going from offensive line coach to defensive coordinator. He wouldn't change, and that was it for him. So, hopefully Sirianni will change something behind the scenes. Maybe they'll bring in some kind of consultant or somebody.
Imagine thinking that when he's up there going in the Hall of Fame, Andy Reid, that he actually did that with
Yeah,
Castillo.
yeah, and you felt bad for Juan. Juan was such a great guy. I remember
Oh,
just standing there in the locker room, and they turn the cameras on. He's trying to answer these questions, and it was deficient. I mean, the roster was falling apart, and it just was an awful season. And you don't want to put somebody in that situation, but that's kind of what the way it's looking for Batul. I mean, it's getting ugly out there. I remember on my website covering the fans standing out there with the signs outside the NovaCare. Fire, get rid of this guy. And that's what's kind of happening with Vitullo here. And the ire is going on him, but it's really Sirianni that's got to clean it up. And then the execution on the field of
correct.
Jalen Hurts.
Correct. Mike in White Plains chimes in, listening online, which we always appreciate. Key, you always talk about those quick turnarounds. Look what the Pats are doing. Look what the Bears are doing. If we're citing that when we're talking about the Giants' new hire, think about this. Can we answer this clearly? Is there a Mike Rabel and or a Ben Johnson in this potential hiring cycle? Enjoying the show. It's a very good question. Like,
It is.
the Rabels of the world, the Ben Johnson, like that hot commodity. Like, this is why you acquire those draft picks, because it's very rare. But do you give up draft picks for a McVay? Right? Do you give up draft picks for a Tomlin? Do you wait for Tomlin to potentially get fired? Do you go after a McCarthy, not give anything up, and just bring in, a solidified, proven, steady head coach? Like, it's look, those were hits, man. Ben Johnson. The other thing is they kept their GM. They gave Ryan Poles a contract extension. They fired the head coach. Usually you fire the head coach, the GM's next. Usually you fire the GM, the head coach is next. The Bears didn't do that.
Yeah,
And,
usually it's
and
hand in hand. Usually
yeah,
it's hand in hand. But he kind of won, in terms of Poles brought in Tooney and reshaped that offensive line. And I knew you guys were going to ask me like who's the new hot candidate. So I wrote a lot of them down. And we're talking the offense side of the ball. Everybody's talking about Mike LaFleur. He's Matt LaFleur's brother. He's the offensive coordinator for the Rams. Wes Phillips with the Minnesota Vikings. Um, Clint Kubiak with the Seattle Seahawks. They're talking about him as a possible head coaching candidate. That's an offensive guy. So yeah, they're probably the younger names out there, and then you have some retreads. Everybody's talking about obviously Matt Nagy with the Kansas City Chiefs, but he's been under Andy Reid, so you don't know who's been calling the plays.
correct.
But yeah, but there's some of the names out there, and I really think the Giants should go in that direction, because they went with a special teams guy that didn't work. They went with a bunch of defensive coordinator type of guys. I think Shermer was kind of retread. Um, they need to get a young guy in there. What Johnson has done with the Bears and bringing that new playbook and that attitude to fit with his young quarterback has really worked.
Offensive line keeping them upright. They're running the football. Are you waiting for tomorrow to hand out game ball and lackey?
I I did come up with my list, and I don't think it's going to change based on tonight. So I'll
Game
give you a shot at it.
game ball quarterback.
Yes.
I don't think it's Bryce Young, and I don't think it's Trevor Lawrence. Uh, is it? It's not. Oh, Jordan Love.
It could have been. He's on an honorable mention list for this week, but it
Prescott?
did. No, man, you got to give it to Bryce Young. They were a 10
Oh,
and
I
a
did.
half.
I mentioned Bryce Young. You didn't say anything.
Yeah, no, well, you said it's not him, so
Oh.
but 10 and a half point home underdog. I mean, 15 to 20, 75%, three TDs. He rushed the ball, and that 43-yarder to Ted McMillan was on the money. I mean, huge win for them. Yeah, so I gave it to him. Hopefully, they'll be able to follow it up. They're on their bye coming up, and we'll see where Carolina goes from there.
Did you give it to the Vikings quarterback as Lackey? Because that's a rough one, man. That kid was in a bad spot. I mean, did you have a little mercy?
I did. I knew you were going to say that. So I put him on dishonorable mention list. He had the 5 turnovers, but it wasn't him. I'll let you try to guess. Who do you think?
Quarterback. Was it?
I,
Was
I
it a quarterback again?
It wasn't a quarterback, but the quarterback had a big hand in it.
Oh, I mean, the Vikings defense. I don't know.
I gave it to a head coach.
Okay, who'd you give it to?
I gave it to Nick Sirianni, man. You know,
Oh, wow.
it was just it was
Did you?
just a
By
bad
the way,
watch, man.
yeah. Let me ask you a question. I think at the time I text you this, like Olsen was all over. It's not debatable. Go for two, and everyone and their mother. When you talk about analytics, you want to stretch the game out. You have to have a feel for the game, right?
Right.
So I look at it and I say to myself, why in the world, right? Would you go for two there when if you get a stop and get the ball back and score, you're guaranteed an opportunity to go for two down eight as opposed to chasing and then making it a multiple, in this case, two possession game. And Olsen was like, it's not debatable. It's not debatable. It's not debatable. And I think sometimes my one issue with Sirianni and some of these coaches, Campbell, and Peyton and some of these other guys is the lack of feel for the game and situational football, knowing that it was going to be hard for you to stop the Chicago the next possession the way they've been running. And it just turned out Chicago went conservative. They gave the ball right back, but it was a moot point. So, did you agree or disagree with Sirianni's choice to go for two there?
No, I didn't agree with it. You know, all the veteran coaches I talked to said don't chase it. Wait until you have to go for it. You know, and as you said, kick the extra point. Hopefully it goes through. Then it's still an 8 point game, and you have the opportunity to still put the other team on the heels and kind of come down, maybe get a touchdown, then go for the two and really put the pressure on them. But as you said, they didn't get it, and then they were like, "Oh, it's two possessions. This game's basically over." So yeah, I wouldn't have chased it there.
So I'm going to defend you on a Monday. So the man says Lloyd is hiding his frustration with the Eagles very well. So Lloyd really has never come out and said Lloyd's objective. Lloyd likes to troll his family and friends who are Eagles fans, but Lloyd does get frustrated at bad coaching and bad football play. So I am, in that regard,
Yeah, not a fan. You know, and a lot of people accuse me I'm a hater. You know, because I'm locally in the Philadelphia area, but you know, I see it objectively, and it was a bad loss for me. You know, Q, you talk about they were 7 point home favorite in this one. The penalties thing is huge for the Eagles right now. They are undisciplined. 7 penalties. The two turnovers obviously hurts with the one interception and the tush push. And then they just couldn't stop the run. They got walked out of their own stadium, man.
dog walk.
281 rushing yards, eighth most against the Eagles in their history.
I heard that since like 1963.
Correct.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't even know. Did they even have football back then? So anyway, on tonight, 8 o'clock, SR 1029 FM the game.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're going to recap this week and get you ready for next week. But yeah, a lot of Thanksgiving games to talk about on the show, and we'll be on 8 o'clock, SR 1029 the game, and the Coast Sports Digital Network.
All right, don't forget that's on X2 at Lloyd Vance. Give these guys a follow. Lloyd's going to join me later on in the week for Football Friday and as well as Back Your Play, which, oh, by the way, uh, last week I just got the numbers over 3,000 3,200 downloads to be exact for BYP. Not bad, my friend.
Nice.
I don't know. I have to check to see our yearly our records right now, because obviously, hopefully, we got to get some. What's the word I'm looking for? We need to get a little coin in the pocket, right? Residuals here.
Sponsorship. There you go.
Yeah, for giving some of these, right? I mean, fresh roasted coffee. I can only drink so much coffee in the day. So, all right, brother. I always
All right,
appreciate
Q.
you. We'll tune in tonight, bro. Thank
All
you.
right, later.
All right, there you have it. My guy Lloyd Vance, kind enough to join us for a couple months. That's 8 to 9 on SR 1029 FM The Game. Give him a follow on social media. Got to start wrapping up 2 in the books, 2 hours in the book, 6 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. This is on cue right on the YouTube channel, as well as Coastal Sports Digital Network, SR 1029 FM The Game. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. As I mentioned, Giants and the Pats. I think the Giants are a very live dog tonight. And I think they keep this one relatively close going into the fourth quarter. I think May's going to make some plays, and maybe, as Lloyd alluded to, the Giants get beat once again on a last second late field goal. We'll see how it plays out. A lot more NFC East talk tomorrow. Also, we are going to talk a little college hoops. Jonathan Marshall is going to join us. We'll get into a little college football. Costco later in the week. Steve Gardner from USA Today on Hot Stove Baseball. John Bueller on his Friday spot, working on a couple of other guests as well. The man chimes in. He's got the G-Men outright, so a little confidence flowing through, and we appreciate that, and some good juju's flowing through. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at Get Ready with Tea. Three Brooks Bourbon, fresh roasted coffee, 20% off your first purchase. Check out the promo code BYP20 and Play It Again Sports. They still have their doorbusters going on today until about 7 or 8 o'clock night. 2 locations, 1450 Clemens Ridge Road, and of course, in Mount Laurel. Appreciate you guys chiming in for 2 hours. Much needed sharing 2 hours with you on this Monday, December 1st, 2025. You guys are the best. Enjoy Monday Night Football. We'll recap it tomorrow. You got a little NBA. We'll dive into that later on in the week. We'll talk to Costco on this Kiffin situation, a little more college football. It'll be good to catch up with Nick Costco as well. But as always, have a wonderful Sports Monday. Be safe, be sound. Just a reminder, this is On Cue. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. As we like to say, we'll talk to you mañana. Hasta luego, buen día.